Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission here is to take the most complex, the most overwhelming source material, tear it apart, and really distill the critical insights.
So you, the listener, get that immediate shortcut to being truly well-informed.
Exactly. And today, we have a remarkable narrative in front of us. It traces the journey of Eva Forge.
And she's not just a warrior.
No, not at all. She is the absolute last paladin of a god who has, well, he's been officially declared dead.
And her world, this floating city of ash, is about to confront the dark secret that's been holding it up. I mean, literally holding it up.
Right.
And that's exactly where we need to focus. We are looking at a system in, total crisis. This isn't just a political thriller.
Yeah.
It's a complete breakdown of physics, of faith, of arcane architecture. We're following Eva's desperate quest to find her kidnapped leader, Fratriarch Barnabas Silent.
And this hunt, it forces her to uncover this centuries-old betrayal.
A betrayal about the very nature of godhood. And this secret threatens to not just, destabilize the government, but completely dismantle the entire religious and political structure of the Fraterdom.
So we're basically watching a centuries-old clockwork machine finally seize up.
That's a perfect way to put it, yeah.
What stands out immediately is the setting. The floating city of ash is just...
Yeah.
It's bizarre. It's technologically advanced, but you can feel it's morally compromised from the start.
And you have to understand the three core players. The Brothers Immortal.
And their competing cults. You've got Morgan, the warrior and champion, who is Eva's dead god.
Then there's Alexander, the healer. He's the reigning god king, the one running ash.
And finally, Amon, the scholar, who's been branded the betrayer and sits imprisoned, right underneath the city.
But to get their power struggle, you first have to grasp the mechanism of their divine energy.
The thing they call noetics.
Correct. Noetics is the fundamental law of this universe. And the whole crisis, it's triggered by what looks like a localized event, the kidnapping of Barnabas Silent.
Right, he's the head of the Morganite cult.
A cult that's already dwindling, already marginalized, so his disappearance isn't just a crime.
It's an act of war.
It's an act of war that immediately fractures the fragile order. It exposes just how weak the once mighty Morganites truly are. It sets them up as the first sacrificial casualty in a much, much larger divine conflict that was brewing right under everyone's nose.
Okay, let's unpack this world before the chaos truly hits.
We have to begin with the architecture because Ash is, well, it's a unique place built on a unique lie.
It doesn't sit on a mountain or an island.
No, it floats on a great lake of cold, black water. And the sources are very specific here. This water is the slick ash of a dead city, a vast ruin below.
This location is explicitly called the greatest sin.
The greatest sin committed against the fair, the ancient race that came before humanity. So Ash is, both structurally and spiritually, a capital city built on top of an act of genocide.
And the city's very existence is just... it's this breathtaking piece of iron.
Oh, absolutely.
It is floated. It has remained dry for 300 years, only because of what they call the impossible engines that are constantly churning below.
These are complex, arcane machines, but they rely on hard, rigorous engineering.
The exact domain of Amon the Scholar.
Exactly. So the city that worships Alexander and vilifies Amon owes its literal stability to the genius of the man they imprisoned and labeled the betrayer.
It just speaks volumes about the level of political suppression, that's required to maintain that Alexandrian dogma.
They use his technology every single day while simultaneously erasing his spiritual legitimacy.
And the city's structure relies so heavily on the lakeway.
Which isn't just a harbor. We need to be clear about that.
No, it's a massive submarine network of steel and stone passages.
Yeah.
You can only navigate it with these specialized depth ships.
And Eva, she's a warrior, so her immediate reaction is tactical. She sees this lakeway as essential to the city's lifeblood, but also
A weakness.
a massive, exploitable security flaw. The fact that Amon's prison is connected to it, maybe through forgotten passages, it's a huge problem in the city's deepest defenses.
A flaw that is going to become terrifyingly relevant later on.
Oh, yeah.
So we have the three brothers immortal, but they're absolutely not equal.
Not even close.
Morgan, the warrior and champion, he's the source of strength, courage, martial prowess. He's Eva's god, but like we said, he's a dead god.
His influence, his noetic power, it's It's waning dramatically.
And we see the practical consequences of this decline in his cult, the Morganite cult.
We do. Eva Forge isn't just a paladin, she is the last paladin. That title carries immense weight, but almost no practical support.
Their huge monastery, the Strength of Mergen, it was designed for thousands of armored soldiers.
And now, it houses maybe 50 souls.
And they're mostly elders, middle-aged initiates,
Mm-hmm.
men and women who kind of missed the chance to fight in Morgan's glorious age.
They are, for all intents and purposes, a culturally significant but militarily defunct remnant. They're isolated and they're very easily targeted.
And you contrast that immediately with Alexander the Healer.
The current God King of Ash. He represents order, healing, and, well, total administration.
His cult dominates every single aspect of the city. We should probably clarify who his people are.
Right. So the Alexandrian servitors are the bureaucratic and security arms of the state.
Yeah.
You've got the white shirts,
They're the general administrators
the justicars, who act as the armed police, the military patrol,
and the chanters.
who are the ecclesiastical and archival arm. They maintain the official histories, they conduct the rites. I mean, they operate the entire mechanism of Ash.
Meanwhile, the cult of Amon is effectively imprisoned. They're labeled as the betrayer, the scholar.
The suppressed engineering and knowledge class, held captive but still ironically producing technology for the people who captured them.
Which brings us from politics to physics. Let's talk about noetics.
Yeah.
It's not simply magic. It's power that's derived from collective memory, from the symbolic resonance of a god. How does that actually work for someone like Eva?
It's essentially amplified faith. When Eva performs an invocation, she isn't just chanting a spell, she is mentally drawing on the collective idea of Morgan.
His deeds, his strength.
His courage, his specific armor, exactly. So Eva's armor functions through the soul, or the concept of Morgan's armor.
So if enough people believe in the strength of Morgan's armor,
That memory fuels the defensive power that Eva invokes. It's belief made tangible.
but this reliance on symbolic memory, it leads to a terrifying weapon when they visit the library desolate.
It really does.
The Alexian servitor shows Eva this technique of binding souls using soul chains.
And these are just thin, flat, or keenly etched, dull gray pieces of metal.
So why use this bizarre material instead of, actual physical shackles?
Because it speaks directly to the nature of noetics. This is the deep insight here. The Alexian explains that physical metal cages would rust and fail in that damp environment.
Of course.
So they rely instead on the noetic power of chains, the symbolic memory of bondage, servitude, and eternal punishment.
So because the Ammonites are scholars, they rely on logic and structure.
The very idea of inescapable restriction binds their souls, not just their physical bodies.
That is a huge shift. We're moving from Morgan's very physical, armored strength to Alexander's psychological and spiritual warfare.
And the Alexian servitor demonstrates it. He just clenches the coil of chain in his fist, and it causes the imprisoned Ammonites to writhe in agony.
So it proves their absolute non-physical control over the souls of the betrayer cult.
It's clinical, it's cruel, and it's highly efficient. It shows that Alexander's cult, the cult of the healer, is actually a master of spiritual incarceration. They're relying on the trauma of the symbol of chains to maintain perpetual control.
And Eva's encounter with this, it just confirms that Alexander's power is far more insidious and calculating than Morgan's brute force ever was.
Right. And this brings us straight to the mission.
The journey takes them straight to Amon's prison, the library desolate.
A place that's intentionally ominous. It's perpetually scorched black, a dark wound on the city.
And this is a tradition upheld by the Morganite cult.
The same cult that was responsible for slaughtering Amon's priesthood centuries ago after Morgan's supposed murder.
Yet, despite all this danger, Fratriarch Barnabas Silent shows up in his full, glorious, formal robe shimmering maroon and gold,
Drawing all kinds of attention to himself.
while Eva's in her simple, practical battle gear, wishing they had more guards.
Barnabas, the political leader, he has to project dignity even if it compromises their tactical safety.
He tells Eva, his last paladin, that she is enough security. He just dismisses her concerns.
Which immediately raises the question, why risk this exposure?
And the purpose of the visit is highly secretive. They're there to retrieve a specific Ammonite named Cassandra.
Described only as gifted and unique.
Barnabas is so vague. He just insists they need her for a duty and that she'll be returned.
But Eva is right to be suspicious. I mean, she's staring at the signs of the betrayer, old men, children, all bound by these symbolic chains, and she knows the Alexian servitor is hostile to them even being there.
And Barnabas does not help ease the tension.
No, he doesn't.
When Alexander's man asks why the Morganites need an Ammonite after generations of separation, Barnabas makes this really barbed political statement.
He says, "It was faith in our brother Amon that cost Morgan his life and gained Alexander a throne."
He's reminding the Alexian of that 2-century-old rumor that Alexander benefited directly from Morgan's death.
It's a calculated risk, but it also signals that Barnabas is already moving against the established narrative.
And Cassandra is presented.
She's young, quiet, and freshly fitted with these symbolic chains, but her talent is it's revolutionary.
She doesn't speak traditional arcane rites.
No, she incants the rights of the scholar in the language of clockwork, machines, and engines arcane.
I just think this is a fantastic concept. What does that even sound like?
It's described as her voice touching these deep places in Eva's mind, speaking with mathematical precision.
Things like stress lines and inertia, gear periods and energy reserves.
Building to a peak of momentum and mass and energy. And she presents one of her complex calculations as an engine merely for the sake of engineering.
It's pure applied mathematics translated into a divine invocation.
And it demonstrates that for the cult of Amon, faith is rationalism. Their godhood is based on understanding the universe as a vast, complex machine.
Barnabas immediately confirms she is what they need, despite her youth.
He gets it. He understands that her knowledge is functional, not traditional, and that's why she's so vital to his secret mission.
But the danger isn't just in the prison. It's a focused, organized hit waiting for them.
Right. Before the main attack, Eva, always the soldier, notices 2 bulky men with metal cowls and eye tattoos just tailing them.
And these initial observers are clearly distinct from the main assault team.
Which implies layers of reconnaissance, maybe even counter-surveillance.
The attack itself is horrifyingly efficient. It happens on an elevated Mana train line.
A fast, very exposed route.
It starts with a precise, fast shot, tearing through the windows, followed by this terrible sound, red and gold light, and the train just falls off the tracks.
This was not some random robbery. This was a specialized military strike designed to isolate and seize Barnabas.
And Eva immediately faces the attackers, who she terrifyingly refers to as coldmen and dead men.
We need to elaborate on what these enemies are because they're central to this new faction.
They're machine warriors. Metal faces, goggle eyes, cold piston hearts.
But are they just robots? The description suggests there's something far more unsettling than mere automatons.
Yeah, they're described as leaking, glittering frost and gummy blood.
That implies a synthesis, a living or maybe a previously living, being augmented and animated by this cold, arcane machinery.
They're impervious to wounds that would take down a normal man. They just keep fighting with shattered limbs and burst mechanisms.
Their vulnerability isn't physical pain, it's mechanical destruction. You have to dismantle them, piston by piston.
And Eva's battle is so intense. She's fighting these heavily augmented, ballistic firing machine men all alone.
She's burning through her limited noetic reserves, flaring heavy protections, Morgan's 100 wounds sundering the right of the stag hunt.
This isn't easy magic. This is a desperate, draining fight where every block of a bullet is an exertion of her god's failing power.
She's physically and spiritually exhausted just from surviving.
And critically, the attackers achieve their primary goal despite her defense.
Fratriarch Barnabas silent is taken.
Eva only recovers Cassandra, whose right hand is mangled with broken bones and friction burns, but she doesn't bleed.
No blood, a huge warning sign.
And Eva's immediate realization that they came for Barnabas first and were prepared for her interference confirms this was a targeted operation by a sophisticated, unknown power.
She goes back to the strength of Morgan to report to the Fist of Elders, Thomas, Isabel, and Simeon.
And her report just throws their whole expected strategy into chaos.
Because the attackers weren't the long-anticipated Rethri invaders?
They were machines, and that completely changes the political and military calculus.
Right, and the clues start piling up, suggesting a complex, multi-layered antagonism.
First, there's the surveillance issue. Eva is certain the 2 bulky, tattooed men she saw tailing them were not the cold men who did the precision strike.
Which implies that the enemy that took Barnabas was being watched by a separate competing faction.
And second, the calling card left at the crash site.
An icon of Amon the Betrayer.
Deliberately embedded in a cobblestone. The material suggests this immense focused force. The stone looks like a stone pressed into hot wax.
It's a sophisticated propaganda move. It's designed to point the finger squarely at the imprisoned Ammonite cult, no matter who actually pulled the trigger.
The investigation then quickly circles back to Barnabas's true secret mission.
which was driven by a physical artifact. Eva learns Barnabas had acquired a mysterious Ammonite machine, a small, pyramidal object with iron bands and scholar runes,
This object is later revealed to be an archive.
containing a whole library in this one space. This changes everything. It gives the Morganites access to Amon's unedited ancient knowledge.
And this knowledge caused a complete schism within the dying Morganite cult.
A secret vote among the elders on the archive's fate.
Thomas and Isabel were adamantly against it. They saw it as dangerous scholar filth.
They wanted it destroyed, upholding that 2-century-old grudge against Amon.
But Barnabas and Elder Elias voted for investigating it.
And Elias in particular had this dangerously progressive view. He hoped they could reach out to the imprisoned Ammonites, believing the knowledge in the archive might be necessary for their cult's survival.
They prioritized logic over religious prejudice.
And the terrifying consequence of this vote is revealed when Elder Elias is murdered.
By a gray-robed figure bearing the icon of the betrayer. This is the crucial moment of internal treachery.
The enemy knew the private details of a secret elder's vote. It exposes that the spy network isn't just external.
No, there's deep internal knowledge of the cult's most sensitive political decisions. Simeon, who also voted with Barnabas and Elias, is terrified.
He realizes the enemy knew precisely where those votes lay.
So Eva, now working with Justicar Owen, this Alexian patrolman, who seems professional and impartial.
They continue the tactical investigation, and they find a critical piece of evidence, an alcove where coldmen were violently killed.
The bodies are described as savagely dismantled, limbs severed, pistons smashed.
The brutality suggests this was the work of those tattooed tailors Eva saw earlier.
Which confirms that rival factions are actively hunting Alexander's coldmen. So the kidnapping was either a highly complicated plot or an internal struggle within Alexander's own network.
And their intelligence gathering gets very specific. They locate a complicated metal communications rig,
A receiver without speakers.
meaning the enemies were receiving commands without talking back. And crucially, they discovered the coldmen were spread out across 2 different high-traffic monotrain circles, Pershing and Hamilton Stone.
The monotrain system is elevated and incredibly fast. It's the circulatory system of the whole floating city.
So to coordinate an attack across 2 circles proves the enemy had precise, advanced knowledge of the Morganons' exact route, their timing, and their vulnerabilities in transit.
That level of sophistication points straight to an enemy operating within the city's highest logistical command structures.
And then the plot just accelerates when Cassandra escapes Alexander's custody.
Eva, the expert tracker, pursues her into this cluttered alleyway, but Cassandra's engineering genius just shines through.
She uses a makeshift elevator, a structure built of scavenged parts, to get away. It shows incredible agility and mechanical skill, completely contradicting her timid first appearance.
Eva follows her, tracking the escape road down into the lakeway.
The dangerous underbelly of the floating city.
Cassandra used an unsealed hatch and a dark, spiraling metal staircase.
And that's the smoking gun. Amon Scions maintains secret operational access to the crucial infrastructure of the floating city. They are literally operating underneath Alexander's nose, using the very engines Amon designed.
And when the Ammonites escaped using some kind of forced mechanism in the water, Eva feels the energy signature.
A definite pulse in her bones.
She says it's not unlike the feeling I got standing on the monotrack staring at the distant tower of the impeller.
And this is critical. This pulse is the arcane signature of Amon's core technology. It ties the supposedly vanquished Ammonite cult to the massive fare engines that keep Ash afloat.
So the investigation moves from who took Barnabas to how does this entire city actually work, and why does Amon's power feel like the city's power?
Exactly. The groundwork for the ultimate betrayal has now been laid.
This next section is the real linchpin, the deep dive into the underlying metaphysics of this world.
Yeah, this is where it all comes together.
Eva, using the Ammonite archive and information from this centuries-old fair elemental leader, she discovers that godhood isn't just belief.
No, it's a measurable, dangerous form of cosmic physics.
The theory is radical. Godhood is a power that naturally gathers in great people. It creates a self-perpetuating noetic cycle where influence generates spiritual mass.
But, and this is the key, this accumulation of power has hard physical limits. You can think of it like a divine battery.
And if you overcharge the battery,
It explodes, it destroys the god and probably the surrounding civilization.
and the history confirms this danger. The ancient titans, the original gods, they eventually tried to distribute divinity, but that system ultimately failed. It combusted.
But the Fair learned from this failure. They tried to spread divinity across their entire race, consciously limiting the power each member held.
They became very little gods.
Right, which allowed them to hold power and maintain stability for vast periods of time.
But mankind's current crisis is that they totally missed the lesson of dilution.
The mantle of godhood fell to the three brothers immortal. As Cassandra later puts it, mankind burns quickly, like a flare.
And with Morgan supposedly dead, they are down to one functional, accumulating god, Alexander.
And if Alexander keeps consolidating power, the math is terrible for the long-term stability of the entire civilization. The potential for a divine overload is imminent.
This brings us back to those giant fair engines, the impellers, that keep Ash afloat.
We know Amon created them, but the archive reveals their original hidden purpose was not just engineering.
Not at all. The Fair invented the impellers late in their empire as an arcane solution to the divine overload problem.
They weren't just buoyancy devices. They were designed as a pressure valve to literally vent God, to safely and periodically release accumulated divine power into the atmosphere.
To stop any one person or generation from becoming overcharged.
Exactly. And this directly explains Eva's physical sensations. The impeller towers emit an invisible surge, a force that vibrates her bones like crystal.
It's the signature of concentrated, contained divinity. It's the same noetic signature she felt when Amon's followers escaped.
So, Amon's network is using the pressure valve system for their own movement. It shows they understand the deep mechanics of the city better than anyone.
But the truly sinister aspect of all this is the ruin of Ash.
Which isn't just a myth, it's a physical reality. A massive, glossy, black, flat stone the size of a hockey field located beneath the city.
And the ruin acts as a primary receiver for divine energy.
Right. Alexander realized the impellers vented power, but he needed to stop the Fair's dilution strategy. So he turned the ruin into a gigantic sponge to sponge up divinity.
And this is how he maintained his monopoly. Alexander didn't just suppress rivals politically.
He actively culled the harvest of young gods. If a powerful new cult leader or a charismatic figure started to accumulate divine energy, Alexander would use the ruin of Ash to siphon off that burgeoning power before they could challenge his authority.
He wasn't just God King. He was the sole gatekeeper of the divine resource.
And the Ammonite archive is the definitive proof that shatters that 2-century-old lie.
The archive confirms that Amon the scholar was fully aware of the divine cycle. He knew about the existential need for multiple gods to faithfully hold the necessary power. He was a rationalist, not a betrayer.
Which leads to the logical, devastating question that Eva has to confront.
If Amon knew they needed more gods, not fewer, why would he want to kill his brother Morgan?
The whole premise of Amon's guilt just collapses under the weight of the physics.
And this is the ultimate revelation.
Amon did not kill Morgan. Alexander, the healer, the current God King, murdered his own brother Morgan, specifically to consolidate the divine power pool into his own singular grasp.
Alexander used Morgan's death to gain a throne. And he's been maintaining this deadly, unstable monopoly for 200 years.
The supposedly benign God King of Order is the real betrayer, the hidden assassin.
And suddenly, the spy network makes perfect sense.
Huh.
Nathaniel Cascade, the Alexian lector, he's identified as an agent of this hidden cult of the betrayer.
A secret society operating within Alexander's own church, dedicated to maintaining the lie and the power monopoly.
So the kidnapping of Barnabas wasn't a power grab by Ammonites.
No, it was a desperate defensive action by Alexander's cult to stop Barnabas from revealing the truth contained in the archive.
The tension comes to this tragic head when Eva and Cassandra infiltrate the hidden house of Alexander.
A facility full of lost mythos, and they are confronted by the captured Fratriarch Barnabas Silent.
Who has been resurrected as a cold man.
It's terrifying. He's altered, wearing bolted-on plate mail, his clear glass eyes leaking oily tears. It's a machine weeping for the man it once was.
Eva's emotional state here must be just overwhelming. Barnabas confirms the horror. Alexander's agents killed me and raised me and made me into something else.
And he now has this dreadful, machine-like clarity about the divine cycle and Alexander's whole scheme.
What makes this scene so compelling is Barnabas's passive resistance. He chooses not to fight Eva.
Right. He was sent there precisely because Alexander's agents hoped his coldmen consciousness would either persuade Eva to stop or force her to strike him down, and thus psychologically incapacitate the last paladin of Morgan.
And Eva just refuses that paralysis. She fights his coldmen guards, and in a rage-fueled, seraphal final act, she binds the newly made god.
Barnabas, now infused with this noetic coldmen power.
The full force of her invocation. It's the ultimate rejection of Alexander's cruelty. She will not allow her mentor to be used as a weapon, even if the only way to stop that is through destructive arcane force.
She kills the machine to free the man.
And with Barnabas neutralized, Eva teams up with Malcolm, an Ammonite, and learns the full scope of Alexander's sadism.
Amon isn't dead. He's kept alive, chained in a charnel chamber, a submerged Titan cathedral at the bottom of the lake.
Alexander keeps Amon alive and bound via those soul chains, the source of the soul bonds used on his followers, and forces the imprisoned Ammonites to continuously build weapons and technology for him.
Amon is literally a divine chained generator for the God King.
The burden of confrontation now falls onto Cassandra.
She volunteers for the terrifying task of entering the archive's core, the Mind's archive.
She is immediately overwhelmed by the torrent of historical and mechanical knowledge. It's the total consciousness of Amon's suppressed history.
She emerges physically damaged, her skin steaming and eyes turned to ash, whispering the truth that sets the divine war in motion. Amon lives.
Eva still believes she is the instrument of Morgan's revenge. She travels to the bottom of the lake in a pressure suit, finds Amon in the ruins of the Titan city.
And the scholar god, speaking with the voice of tombs, tells Eva she is not his champion.
He needs a scholar, not a warrior.
And he informs her that another will find me.
And that another is Cassandra. She reappears later, naked but for charred armor, blindfolded, having seen too much truth.
And she's bearing a pulsing bloody handprint on her chest, the mark of the Mind's archive. She accepts the rational burden of godhood, declaring, I am the champion of Amon.
The scholar god finally has his weapon.
So the ultimate plan is hatched by Eva, Justikar Owen, and Malcolm. They have to complete the fair's original purpose and vent the ruin of ash.
They have to release the hoarded divine power before Alexander can use it to annihilate Amon.
And they execute this plan by using the impellers themselves. The monotrain system, which uses the same noetic force, is overloaded.
They accelerate the trains to uncontrollable speeds, far exceeding their design limits, forcing the giant, glowing impellers to finally discharge the contained divinity.
This catastrophic release ensures that the divinity has been spread uncontrollably across the city and the world.
The resulting cataclysm is just. It's spectacular. Amon rises from the lake in a massive, shimmering white structure. His weapon, the Spear of Amon.
He flies into the sky and uses his renewed power to retrieve the actual Spear of Amon from Alexander's crumbling tower, formally signaling the start of the divine war.
And Alexander, finally exposed, ascends to meet him. He confirms his role as the hidden assassin by wearing the articulated mask of the betrayer.
The very mask he had forced Amon's followers to build.
The sky turns dark, violently charged with noetic energy. The impellers halt, having successfully discharged the city's contained divinity, and the great war of the gods begins above ash.
And amidst all this destruction, Eva returns to the ruins of the strength of Morgan to face Alexander one last time.
Alexander, stripped of his monopoly, confesses his fear of losing control of the natural divine cycle, his manipulation of 2 centuries.
And Eva's response is the final, defining moment of her character.
She delivers the ultimate, irreversible truth. The divinity has been spread, Alexander. There will be new gods.
She makes the final cut, wounding the last brother immortal, but then she sheathes her blade.
She refuses to kill him. She refuses to take the mantle or continue the cycle of assassination and power hoarding. She's not a replacement.
She's a liberator of the system itself.
Her path forward is just heartbreakingly pragmatic. She collects the bodies of her slain elders Thomas, Isabel, Simeon, and lays them to rest in the charred ruins of the strength.
She takes up her new mantle, the sole survivor, the paladin of the dead god Morgan, who now stands in a city ruined by divine warfare, allied with the one she was taught to hate, waiting for the unpredictable new age to begin.
What a monumental total reversal of history. The figure revered as the protector in Godking Alexander was the calculated murderer who hoarded divine power for 2 centuries.
And the imprisoned scholar, Amon, was resurrected as the necessary rational counterforce to break that corrupt, fatal cycle.
The cost of achieving this critical truth is almost incalculable. Eva's cult is functionally destroyed.
The city of Ash is in ruins, And the carefully controlled distribution of divinity, the very thing that the Fair knew was essential to prevent civilization from consuming itself, is now violently fractured and distributed.
Eva Forge has moved from guarding one man to becoming the entire operational and moral infrastructure of her dead cult.
And she has an uneasy but necessary alliance with the new champion of Amon, Cassandra. It's a political and arcane union forged out of pure desperation and shared knowledge.
The profound implication of venting the ruin of Ash is that mankind is now living in a truly open system.
They stopped Alexander's monopoly, but in doing so, they completely destabilized the divine cycle. The mantle of godhood is now, perhaps for the first time in millennia, genuinely open to mankind again.
We have meticulously tracked the chaos caused by the power of three great gods shrinking down to one power-hungry tyrant. But now that the cycle has been completely destabilized, what will happen when that massive, released divine energy finds new hosts?
The new age begins not with peace or order, but with the terrifying, uncertain prospect of new, uncontrolled gods arising literally anywhere in the smoking ruins of Ash.
Eva Forge now faces a world where the future is entirely unknowable, and the next god might just be the person standing next to her.